What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Bear With Us podcast. As always, I am Frank. Today I am joined with Nas, which is the norm, at least for now. Nas, how are we feeling, man?
I'm just getting over the flu, so I'm not a hundy, but love to talk some Bears anyways. Let's do it.
I feel you. Yeah, is it confirmed, the flu? Like, did you take the little test?
Mine's not confirmed, but my wife tested for the flu, and now I'm sick, so I'm assuming that's what I had.
Can I just say, though, I know the pandemic was an awful, awful thing, so I'm not trying to, like, even silver line it here, but the one cool thing that's come out of it is that test that shows if it's RSV or the flu or COVID. I thought that was pretty fucking cool. I haven't taken them, but I know they exist.
Right. Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, so that has been nice. Yeah, I don't know if it's still translating over. I'm pretty stuffy. My allergies have been beating the life out of me these last like 3 days. I had it yesterday. I never usually get this, but I've had like you know how your ears pop when you're on a plane? I felt like that all yesterday and like half of Sunday. But it's like they're also like highly sensitive. So when my kids screamed, it was like a sharp. I mean, it was the worst, just like ringing in there. It was bad. But your boy's feeling better today, so I'm excited for this episode, y'all. This is gonna be a little bit shorter of an episode today, but I think there's a decent amount to talk about. With the combine being in full force, and the media being all over the Bears, there were plenty of interviews and comments and such from Ryan Poles, from Matt Eberflus, so we're here to react to some of those. I think we'll start quarterback heavy and end with a couple of things that they touched on that were not quarterback. Nas, I know you didn't really get a chance to see much, and to be fair, I didn't watch full interviews. There was a bunch of clips that just kept popping up, so I was sort of like notating as I was watching them all for the episode. So I think first things first is Poles still, out of his mouth, he didn't allude to it. He didn't like play around with words. He did say that a trade down isn't completely off of the table. But his words were that they have to check all of the boxes. And he sort of went down this whole checklist of like what I'm seeing from quarterbacks. It has to sort of compensate for how I feel if I do go that route. He's weaseled his way out of like, if we do this and if we do that, this is what that scenario would look like. He told that to Sylvie on the Waddle and Sylvie show. Just this morning. Nas, how much of that do you think he's BSing us?
All of it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to act like a decision hasn't been made. And he's trying to create that illusion for as long as he can. And I think he's done a really good job of it, to be honest, considering how much of a slam dunk pick we all think this is. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, we know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and I will say,
leverage.
No, I totally agree. I will say too, the one thing that he's doing a masterclass of, to more of your point, is I do think you keep that on the table, because the interview that they're going to have with Caleb Williams, the first official one, I'm sure there's been some back channel with the dad and other people, and I know they've done their huge due diligence with former coaches, and you know how we've heard crazy stories in the past, like they've gone to like grammar school teachers and like high school. I mean, some people will, which probably rightfully so, turn over every stone. But the first official interview they can have with them is tomorrow. So I think you keep this avenue open, because there is a scenario. I don't think this will happen, but what if Caleb just says something or things like way off the fucking wall? You're like, okay, there's no shot we draft this kid, right? So I think you have to keep this avenue open, even though that's a very slim chance. So I do think, from that standpoint, he's doing well with not totally showing his hand. Right. All right, couple of other things here. You know what? I want to dive into this because I wanted to last week and then it blanked my mind. Because to me, this was always a non-story. But someone did ask him, do you have any concerns with some of the reports that came out that Caleb may not want to play in Chicago? And he, like, not only did he just shoot it down, he emphatically shot it down and said, like, no, we've, like, had these talks and we're not scared of that at all. Nas, this is something we've never discussed, I don't think, but, like, or maybe we have through text. But was that as big of a non-story to you as it was to me? Like, it didn't even feel worth my time, to be honest.
It's actually kind of hilarious that people are like trying to give us like the Milwaukee Cleveland treatment. It's like we're fucking Chicago. We're starving for a player like this. We're the third biggest market in the country. this would be the most beloved player in Chicago sport if he was successful. This would be a no-brainer city to want to come to. I honestly, I don't even think I actually discussed it with anyone because I thought it was that much of a non-story. I don't think I even acknowledged it. Like, yeah, it was. I never took the time to think about it more than 5 seconds if I saw a clip.
Yeah, same. And I know the initial reports, and who knows what's misinformation and what isn't at this point. Other teams are trying to get all these players to drop. I mean, look at all the slander that Marvin Harrison Jr. is getting for not having an agent. And there was one other thing that are like, oh, and it's other people in the comments like, oh, the Giants are loving this. Like, let them slide, baby. Like, and it's, people are having fun banter with it, but I'm right there with you. And the other thing is like, I would understand people wanting to avoid a New York market. Their media is crazy. I don't think you should avoid any market as a pro athlete, but if there was one to avoid, I can see that being, whatever. The Chicago market, while it can be annoying to those who are plugged in, it's never been like that, or even like Philly's market gets really fucking crazy. Like, think about, and again, I don't want this to come across as bashing Fields, but we know some of his stats aren't exactly pretty. And the media still has treated him like a darling. And again, I think to a large degree, like rightfully so, he's made Bears football fun again for the last few years. But like, they're not nearly as harsh, especially for as big of a market as it is, as some of these other ones. There are smaller markets that are much, much harsher than the Bears media market is, I think.
I think we're harder on the coaches than we are the players a lot of times.
I agree.
To be honest, in this city. Like, how many times did we see John Fox, Matt Nagy, and even Flus sometimes get flustered by the critiquing and the hard-pressed questions by the media? The players rarely have to deal with that nearly as much as some of the coaches. Or even, like, you could even go to the Bulls, like Vinny Del Negro, getting in, like, actual arguments in interviews with people. So it's like, I actually think we push harder on the coaches than we do the players in the city.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to your biggest point, if I am Ryan Poles, and if anyone, well, first of all, if you don't want to be here, I wouldn't try to convince you to be here. That's ridiculous. But just playing it in the scenario is the sell to it is, I mean, the Kyle Schwarber, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, all those dudes, Wilson Contreras, Jake Arrieta, they're never going to have to buy another fucking beer in this town again. You become immortalized in the city of Chicago if you win a Super Bowl as a quarterback, being the best player on the team. Like, again, just like you said, we're thriving. We're starving for this guy who can lift all boats, who can be a legitimate, no doubt about it, superstar. So if you're not built, and again, this isn't towards Caleb, just generally, because this is why I think it's so silly, because if you're going to be a number one pick, you're built this way. There's not very many number one picks who are soft in that aspect. And I think he knows that. I think he knows that this is my chance. This is my time. Not only does every little boy that plays football dreams of being the number one pick, but to be going to a town that's like starving for you to be the dude, and again, it's like, it's not like, I just, that whole thing was weird. What you said, like, we're not Milwaukee. We're not this small little town. We're not, who was it that wanted Adamo, Jian Liang from China. Remember when he was like, I don't want to be here. It's like, I want to go somewhere big like New York. And it's like, we're not that. People, like, there's been weird downplay of how big Chicago, we're the third biggest market in America. Like, it just, let's cut it out.
Yeah.
I always thought that was extremely silly. Okay, there are some other things that Poles spoke to the culture that he's built, him and Eberflus have built in Chicago. And I thought this was a phenomenal quote by him as well. Again, not verbatim, but he said that guys like DJ Moore having Fields' back speaks to the nth degree about the culture that they've built, because they're supposed to feel that way. They've worked together, they've bled together, they've sweat together. They're absolutely supposed to feel that way. He did let it say he can't let that cloud his judgment. He has to do what's best for the Chicago Bears. And then he also said, like, it's not the player's job to be focused on the future. They're in it with the guys in the trenches right now. So they're tunnel vision. They're still seeing the ways that they can improve or have improved, and they want to keep, knocking at that door. But then he also sort of finished that off with saying, like, he does empathize with Fields because he is living in that gray zone that Fields talked about on the Amon-Ra St. Brown podcast. And he said that, he's doing his best to communicate with Justin and to make sure he's in the know. And then ultimately, this is the last part of it, is that and it's something that we alluded to as well, that he wants to make sure he's setting up Justin to be in a good scenario the next go round. Again, the weasel out, if that's the route that we decide to go. Does any of that surprise you, or, what are your general thoughts on it?
None of it really surprises me. I think Poles is probably top 5 at his job in the league. Like, the guy is on a run, on a 13-month run here, where he's dealing in the interviews, and then he's real-time dealing in trades and acquisitions. The guy's on fire, and I love how polished he is and how polished he has become in an interview setting. The guy, I was just listening to a podcast about the movie Rounders. Have you ever seen that movie? It's about poker.
No, I would say it sounds familiar. No, but it's a poker movie.
Yeah, and one of the quotes is like, always leave yourself outs. And Ryan Poles follows that to the nth degree, and I love it. It's like, he totally gets his job. He definitely knows what he can and can't say. He never says anything by accident. And this was a great hire. You can say what you want about the Bears organization, but they nailed this hire in Ryan Poles.
I totally agree. And again, this to me means just as much as everything else in this process, because you look at the way that not only the Bears players look at Justin and talk about Justin, we've seen other players. I mean, especially that run that the Bears went on, not this past season, but the season before that, when Mike McDaniels was praising Justin Fields, when a bunch of defensive players were like, look, we have a lot to worry about when he's on the field. They're obviously rebuilding, but that guy has an X factor to him. Defensive coordinators were coming out and talking about how hard it was, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we know the stories. Like, the general sense around Justin Fields, whether or not people think he's a franchise player, is that he's a baller. Like, I think there's a difference, but there can be a difference between the two, and he's highly respected for his work ethic. So this, to me, goes just as long a way as Ryan Poles getting the choice right between Caleb and Justin, because again, that sort of cachet, now you get other guys around the league, like, and we talked about this last week or maybe the week before, like, if I do sign here or if I get traded here and it doesn't work out, I know Ryan, like, this culture they built is legitimate. This is a legitimate workplace to be in, and that's a good thing. Couple of other things though, Naz, that makes me think the trade's happening like next week. If not sooner than that, because it's an opportunity where all the GMs and ownership groups are together and in the same rooms. He did say again, if this is the route that they go in trading Justin, he wants the answer to be quote unquote tomorrow. And he didn't mean literally tomorrow. He was like, I just mean like, I know I'd rather it be soon, because I want to make a move as quickly as possible. Verbatim his words. And then what he said was, it would make the most sense to trade Fields pre-free agency. One, because that'll allow him to get more acclimated sooner. It would allow his next team to be able to continue to build around him or do whatever they need to do and not have to wait through free agency. But then 3, he's going to get the most from the trade. So it sort of works for all parties. Do we want to put like an over-under on what day? Do we want to have a little internal bet? And we have to discuss our bet for the compensation.
When's the moratorium to talk to free agents? Like March 2nd or 3rd?
March, it's for the 1st or the 2nd, yeah.
Yeah, when is that? Yeah, it's so I would say before the weekend would be my guess.
Oh, you think there'll be an agreement in place?
I think so. I think by like midnight Friday night, we're gonna get a little Friday news drop.
Shit. Yeah, that's the best time to do it too. I almost
Okay. The 2024 league year and free agency signing period begin at 4 p.m., which means the moratorium starts 2 days before that. Okay, which is the 11th. So no, it won't be this week. It will be the start it'll be like 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
Okay, let me look at a calendar here. It couldn't be the 8th just before then, if it's the 11th. Would you say 11th?
March 13th.
Oh, 13th.
The
But also,
2024 league year and free agent signing period begin at 4 p.m. But I know negotiations start before that.
but can trade negotiate that right? The free agent stuff can. I wonder, can you have an unofficial trade, and then it doesn't go official until the new league year? I feel like that's happened before. I just can't remember quite. I feel like the Bears traded
trades can
the
happen
pick
until the league year. I don't think the trades, unless
because this was around the time that they traded the number 1 pick last year. It was before, well before free agency, and DJ Moore was a part of that trade, but they couldn't officially announce it until the league year was underway.
Right. So they might come to an agreement, and that might get put out. Okay, yeah. Then I would say if they can come to an agreement before the league year technically happens, then I would say that we find out this before. I would say I'll say Friday night.
Shit. I'm gonna go. I'll go Monday then.
All right.
I'll go Monday at like noon. We'll see how wrong we are. All right, Naz. Let's talk compensation. Where do you think? And we have to make a bet on this. What do you think the Bears are getting in this deal?
Okay. So a couple things that I peeked at before I decided that my take is it's going to be a 3rd rounder or worse.
Or worse?
Based on who the suitors are, which I think is 2 teams in the NFC South and Pittsburgh. Those are the only teams I can see willing to give draft equity for Justin. One of them being the Steelers, and then 2 of them being Atlanta or New Orleans. New Orleans is in a cap situation. Atlanta oddly didn't go after Lamar last year. I thought that was the weirdest thing I had ever seen. Just putting it like not only not signing him, putting out a statement that they're not even going to negotiate with him for a contract, which I thought was fucking ludicrous. You got that version of Lamar with that Atlanta team this year. They're going to the playoffs without a doubt. So I'm not sure where the front office's head's at. I just don't think 3 teams is enough of a market to get a 2nd round pick for an unproven guy. I think the best comp of a 1st rounder that didn't work out would be Tannehill, and Tannehill left for a 4th rounder. I think since it's a little bit earlier in Justin's tenure, I think 3rd round, maybe like a 3rd and a 6th. But I don't think a 2nd rounder is going to be attached to the trade.
Oh, What do you
think?
The 2 that I don't vehemently disagree with you, because I'm still like, it wouldn't shock me if we got like 2 2s. It also wouldn't shock me if we got like a 5th or so. I don't know. I feel like the floor on this has the potential to be low, because he's going into year 4 of his contract. But I'm thinking of the Carson Wentz deal, which I know he was in the MVP race before he tore his knee up. But I'm also thinking of the Sam Darnold trade, which was like a 2, 4, and a 6. And I don't know if you can compare what Fields had done to what Wentz had did prior to that. I don't think he's ever hit that height, at least consistently. But he had a better tenure with the Bears than Darnold did, I think, with the Jets. Like, stats be damned, just the eye test. Like, Darnold you just knew he really wasn't the dude after year 2, I would say. Like, Fields, you may have had the inkling, but you were willing to go into year 3 to at least give it a go.
I don't think Carolina. I think that might have been your perception, but I don't think the perception around the league of Darnold was that he was done. And in fact, I actually am not even sure if that's the perception of him right now.
Oh shit!
I was listening I was listening on pods about when he had to fill in for Purdy that 1 half.
Oh yeah,
and how good he looked. And I'm just like Darnold. I think people kind of forget talent-wise, he's up there still. The dude's got a rocket. He's a good athlete. He had a really strong start to that Carolina season before he got hurt. I think that trade is actually kind of what's hurting Justin now, because it still was too much. And I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just a harshest critic of Justin or something, but like he hasn't done anything to warrant real draft equity. He has gotten better as a passer, has had how many elite passing games though? Even though he's gotten better, how many elite passing games has he had? Not many. How many comeback drives has he had? Not many. Turnover rate, not elite. Sack rate, not elite. Like it's such an unknown. And second round contracts are the best contracts in the league. They're the best. They have like the highest value for any team because of the non fifth year option that's on it. So I just don't, and the fact that usually second rounders, about half of them end up being starters. So you could get a potential starter with no fifth year option on a lower scale deal. It's just like there's such value there, and maybe I'm thinking of it too much of too much of a perspective of what I would do if I was the team trying to acquire Justin. I wouldn't give a second round pick for a guy I just don't know enough about. So who's going into his fourth year? So I don't know. If we get a second rounder, I will be pleasantly surprised. I would be thrilled, and I don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be a third at best.
The only thing that I makes me think we absolutely could get a second and maybe even like a second and a third is the Trey Lance trade. A fourth for a guy who's thrown like 5 passes since high school. And because to me, I still think people look at talent and what they thought of people coming out of college, especially when they're still on their first contract. Again, I could be wrong, and I don't vehemently disagree with you. I think that last year would have been probably a better market to get more for Justin than this year. Not even performance-based, just like the quarterback need of everything, because depending on where you're at, you may even look at someone like Russell Wilson as more of a stopgap guy, or you know what I mean? Like Tannehill still may be out there. Like there's just I don't want to say better options, but just options that may make a little more sense for you. There isn't that team that is maybe a little bit young or in a rebuild that's like, hey, let's just kick the tires, and if we can get it to work with this guy, we could be the Bears of next year and have a high pick and not even have to waste it on a quarterback. So we'll see. Definitely will be interesting. But you're going third round or later. I'll go second round because I still can't shake this feeling that they may use him to move up in the first. I just have this this thing. I think New England may like him. I think because I don't think New England is totally in on a rebuild just yet. I think that it's more of a retool, and I think maybe you use 9 and Justin to get up to 3 and maybe get Marvin. I don't know. I have this feeling.
Okay, so you think New England's a suitor? Is there anybody else that you had in mind?
The other 3 that you named as well. It also wouldn't shock me because I don't exactly know what Seattle's doing as well. They don't seem. I don't think they're gonna. Seattle, I could see because Geno's gonna be gone. And then the dark horse for me is Tennessee. I know they have Will Levis, but I don't know.
I think they think Will Levis is a dude.
They could,
which he might be. I mean, like he did show flashes last year. That's like the weirdest thing. Sometimes, like when you haven't seen enough of a guy, it almost like helps the value because it's like the unknown.
Yeah.
Which is why like Trey had barely played. They got a 4th rounder for him, but like part of that was like the only people who had seen him were the fucking Niners.
Yep.
So it's just it's so weird how it plays out sometimes. And then also, is there another QB besides Justin that's like on the trade market right now? That
a trade market? I know Russ is going to get cut at some point in March. That's been the because the dead money and everything, and the way the contract's set up. Is Tannehill technically still rostered, or is he a free agent?
He's going to be a free agent.
He's going to be a free agent as well. That's a good. Justin may be the only one that's like starter worthy available via trade right now.
Honestly, if the Giants weren't so fucking dumb, this would be a great opportunity for them. Played. If they just franchised Daniel Jones, and then he would be off the books this year.
Yep.
Imagine Justin Fields with Dayball running that same offense.
That would be really cool to see.
It would actually be a great match, I think.
I mean, look at
to
what
be honest.
Daniel did with his legs in that system.
That's what I'm saying. And he was like efficient. He got the turnovers down. They put him in good situations. For some reason, isn't it crazy that their own coaching fooled them? And they're like, oh, we can actually get more out of this guy. It's like, no, you actually just brought the best out of him.
Yeah, that was the best you're gonna get.
Oh man, that's so funny.
That is extremely funny. Last thing, quarterback related. Let me tell you what was said, and I'll tell you what my problem with it was. So Eberflus said that the biggest part of the evaluation and decision making is closing games, and what a quarterback is able to do in the fourth quarter. Which that to me was a smoking gun of like they've talked about this. Justin's a goner, but
that's interesting because that's how I grade my coaches.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. I was like, dude, if Ryan Poles said this, by all means, I'm like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, you're right. You should evaluate the fourth quarter heavier than anything because that's when a defense is going to lock it in. That's when we're going to take away your best weapon. You know what I mean? And like, now as a quarterback, you got to look to option 3, 4, whatever. But like Flus saying that, I was like, dude, you're the reason they lost 3 games last year and we could have been in the playoffs. Like, now, granted, we probably still be having these same conversations, but as a fan of the team, I'm like, that's not the guy I want to hear from right now about fourth quarter performances because he's been dreadful in the fourth quarter. It's so funny that you brought up the point first, but yeah, that was my only issue with it. But it was sort of the smoking gun to me. There were little, what do they call those moments when you accidentally say what you weren't supposed to say? The
right,
frugal, whatever. I forget how to what the word. You know what I'm saying though, right? It's
yeah.
They had a few of those, and that was one of them.
Yeah, I think the audacity to say something like that was pretty outrageous, dude. You lost 3 games that you had a 95% chance or more to win with literally anybody at quarterback, and you fucking But you know what I did? Oddly, you know what I saw was the buzz created by Flus's haircut.
Yeah, in his beard, he's got a beard.
Yeah. They're like, all right, a little swaggy Flus. All right.
Yeah, playoffs confirmed. Absolutely, that's a whole different man right there.
No, yeah, I think the saying is "look good, coach good," right?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. All right, 2 last things before we get out of here, Nas. Non-quarterback related. It is. I mean, Ryan Poles is very confident they're getting a deal done with Jalen Johnson. Like ridiculously confident. He listened. He said he listened to our podcast and he heard that. It would have been a failure no matter what they did at quarterback if they did not secure Jalen Johnson. They're getting that done. The only question that I had is, I want, do we just not use the franchise tag at all then this year? They locked up Sweat like a few days after that trade. That would have been an option. If they sign Jalen long term, I don't even think anyone else is eligible, right, for the franchise tag, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone that's like in a tough negotiation in a contract year. No, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the thing.
Is there an incentive to not? I wonder if we can get something of value. Like, you know, you get comp picks for a certain thing. Like, well, if you don't use one, like I feel like the NFLPA there should be a reward for that. Like, hey, you actually signed your guys.
Yeah, we should get like a compensatory pick.
Yeah, give us like a 5th. That'd be great. No, but that was really good news. That it sounds like both sides are it's starting to heat up. Yeah. So I am curious though, because what I wanted to say last week when you brought up, like you said something along the lines of like, I don't want it to be like record breaking, but what they're going to do, and this is what every agent does for selfish reasons and to appease the ego of the player, the headline is going to read highest paid corner in the league, but it's going to be one of those contracts that it's like for 1 year and it's moved money this way and it helps the cap. It's going to be a very, I think, creative contract to say highest paid right now. Once Sauce gets paid, once these others gets paid, it's going to blow it out of the water probably, but it's going to be one of those, I think.
I'm sure the salary cap bumping like an unexpected amount probably even helps negotiations even more. I think it gave them like an extra $12 million to play with. So
give it all to Jalen. Fuck it.
Dude, I am so excited for this offseason. Oh my God.
I am too.
It's just going to be, yeah.
I am very excited. Speaking of, last thing, and I'm sure there were more, but I was sort of piecing together clips, some short, some longer. Matt Eberflus did say he was adamant that they needed another pass rusher. And one of my biggest points going into this offseason was, while I love Ryan Poles' philosophy of not just overpaying to overpay to get talent, this to me is an area in which I would be okay with an overpay. I think we're in the space right now for an overpay with resetting the rookie contract, with potentially a better quarterback in year one, with already locking up Sweat and having that guy. If Jared Allen, if Josh Allen makes it, if Danielle Hunter makes it, if Chris Jones makes it, one of these guys makes it, you overpay a little to bring the talent here. I stand with that when it comes to a pass rusher. What are your thoughts?
I don't mind if we overpay in the short term, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, let's give a dude some guaranteed money, but let's keep the extension low in years, man. Like, let's keep the flexibility, because even though I don't like, I like to be in a space, like, I like what you said, like, you think we're in a space where we can overpay a little bit. I really only like to overpay for those last additive guys if I feel like it's really going to catapult us from like one tier to the next tier. I think we could become like a powerhouse team in a year or two. I don't think this is the year where you splurge. You know, and Poles, I think he's always said he's a second, third wave guy.
Yeah, but he said that in the same offseason where he tried to sign that defensive tackle from the Bengals to a pretty big contract.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I guess you're right. I can't totally believe everything that guy says, but
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, would I be mad at a Josh Allen, Danielle Hunter signing? No. If we sign Josh Allen to like a 4-year deal, I don't think I'd care as much. I think Danielle Hunter, I would like to keep that limited. I don't mind paying him a lot up front.
Agreed.
But I would like to keep it low in years, keep that flexibility moving forward, for sure.
Yeah, and this is the only portion of Poles' tenure that's been disappointing. And again, it's really not his fault. You're throwing, you're just sort of taking a lottery ticket at that point. But none of the 1-year deals have really made it. Like, you think like the Akeem Hicks with Pace, where it was like 1-year dude, and like he fucking exploded. Like, all right, this is our guy.
Yeah.
Billing sort of worked. He got an extension. But like, that's what makes Al-Qadim Muhammad, that signing, like, fuck, you couldn't have gave us a little production, so we're not in this position to potentially have to overpay. Even Yannick Ngakoue, like, what happened to you being a 10-sack guy every single fucking year? You just forgot how to sack the quarterback. Like, give us one of these dudes to hit. I know, it's like, give us one of these like renegade type of signings to hit, and then give them a 2-year deal. So what you said, maybe in a year or two when they are like for sure ready, then you really overpay, whether that means draft capital and a big contract like with Khalil Mack or elsewhere. But this may be the only offseason to do it. I haven't looked into next year's, but this is a pretty loaded, has the potential to be a pretty loaded pass rush offseason, and you may have to.
You are right in that area. Like, it is a loaded D-line list.
Yeah.
So maybe, I'm signing Jalen and having Kyler and having Kwani and like some of these young dudes, I actually still think the secondary is lacking a little depth. Like, I'm still a little nervous about them.
Yeah.
So if that means we got to beef up the D-line to help that out, like, I get that mental process. So I wouldn't knock it.
No, same. But yeah, I'm very excited, just like you are, for the offseason. And it's upon us. I think more and more reports will come out from this combine, from these meetings, from these interviews and such. I think tomorrow we're going to get a lot of little tidbits. Just like you said, things don't hit the media on accident with this guy. He's keeps a tight ship. He's getting things out there. He's probably got some guys in his back pocket, reporter wise. I think next week's episode will be some takeaways, some free agent predictions or wants or whatever. Maybe even like a quarterback carousel if we haven't gotten to the point where we know quarterbacks are going to be. I think the only thing that can come between them is if there is a Justin Fields trade, we'll try to coordinate as best as we can to do an emergency quick 10, 15-minute reaction podcast. I may shed some tears even though I know it's coming. But yeah, we're in full force here. I'm very excited about it. Shit, Nas, what I wanted to ask you was, and this will be the last thing before we get off. With him saying it makes the most sense to trade Justin Fields pre-free agency, if he does not get traded pre-free agency, do you think that would be, and let's say they still have the number 1 pick, would that be a sign to you to say maybe we're keeping Justin?
No. I think I would be one. I don't think that's going to happen. Two, I would be really alarmed. I don't think we'd keep Justin. I just think like it would be proof that the leverage is really not there, and the asking price is too steep, and we might have to dump him for like a fifth or sixth.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, if they don't get their, because I thought something similar. I went a little bit different of a route with it. I think if they don't get what they want, which will be a second, a third in that range, or a couple of picks, I think they may hold on to him until draft night and try to package him and to move up, or in some sort of, I mean, hell, who knows who's going to be disgruntled by then? You know what I mean? And you say I have like a third in Justin Fields for your star receiver that it wants out, Minnesota. Maybe Justin Jefferson would like to come down. You need a quarterback. Kirk isn't going back. You know what I mean? You just quick little conversations that you have as Ryan Poles. So I don't know. He has. I still think he has a decent amount of leverage right now, and I think teams also know that, and that's why I think all parties involved would want to get it done sooner rather than later. Because again, we have there's 2 months until the draft, so people get disgruntled. Contract talks go sideways. People want out all of a sudden. Maybe this quarterback. I mean, we saw it with Jay Cutler years ago. We've seen it with other players, quarterbacks. Shit happens. And the quicker you can determine your future and get things settled, maybe you just say, hey, maybe we don't think Justin's necessarily worth a second, but just fucking take it and let's just get this ball rolling.
2 months, man. For some reason, my brain is like thinking it's in 2 weeks. But
I know it feels that way. Well, it's because
I hope it goes by quick.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I did think it was pretty cool for Poles to say like, hey, I empathize with them, because this conversation didn't start when the offseason started. This conversation started in like week 6 when we all realized that the Panthers were historically bad. Like they were just fucking awful. We're like, we're getting the number 1 pick here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool for Poles to acknowledge that. All right, Nas, anything you want to touch on before we get out?
Fuck the Bulls. I mean, god damn it. I'm just sick of this shit. I truly am. And I know we're on a Bears pod, everybody, but just basketball is my first love, all right? And we lead the goddamn league in attendance.
It's so gross. I hate that.
And it doesn't make any sense to me. And it's like, yeah, I understand we have the largest like basketball stadium in the league, but the fact that the seats are filled is a problem.
I know.
It's just, I just don't get it. And it's just like the worst. It's the worst run franchise in the city. You could argue it's the worst run franchise in the NBA given its market value, given the history attached to the franchise. There's still like people have been telling me like Mike hasn't been like showing as much love to the Bulls lately, and it's like, yeah, he fucking shouldn't, because he's no longer associated with the NBA because he doesn't own a team anymore, and he's not part of the ownership group with the Bulls. So why does he need to show love? He's done enough for the franchise. He's the reason they're still leading the league in sales. Bulls paraphernalia is top 5 in sales every year, and it's still because of him. It's fucking absurd.
He also knows the inner workings of it. It's the same owner. It's Jerry Reinsdorf. Like
and Michael's loyal, so he's never going to say anything bad about Jerry.
Right.
You know, like he would never do that. It's just it's time to boycott this team. It's a joke. I just can't believe it. I mean, after this next game I go to in 2 weeks, I'm never going again.
Are you going with Eugene?
I am.
Yeah, he offered one, and I was like, dude, I'm not going to a Bulls game. We have to figure out something else to do. That's so funny. Yeah, they're awful. We owe people the Bulls TikTok. That's coming. Just schedules have been a little nuts. We'll get some short form content in. But yeah, I'm in agreement. Fuck the Bulls. I think the only pushback potential I would have is that maybe the White Sox are worse one, but it's the same fucking owner, so who cares? They don't have a single $100 million contract, dude, in baseball. That is absurd. Never in their history do they have a $100 million contract.
They went to Springfield to ask for money.
It's insane.
That's like, fuck right off.
Yeah, absolutely absurd.
I hate the Sox, and I feel bad for Sox fans.
I kind of do, but I also just...
I mean, not really, but like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I've met one too many racist White Sox fans.
Yeah, I don't really feel bad for them.
I get what you're saying, though.
I do.
Hypothetically, because of the situation, yeah.
Like, if they weren't pieces of shit, I'd feel bad for them.
I mean, because it's just, they're probably Bulls fans, too, so we have some alignment there.
Yeah.
God. Well, all right, Nas. Thanks for being here, everyone. Thanks for listening. Again, like, share, subscribe. We're in for a long, fun off season, man. I'm very excited about it. We're gonna be here with you all every step of the way. Hopefully we get a little breaking news and do a little emergency pod for a Justin Fields trade, potential trade. That'd be fun.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm gonna have my thoughts and want to like level set. And then the one thing that we haven't discussed that I really want to get into once the pick is official is just like this is the most unique expectations that I've had, I think, for a rookie quarterback. In Caleb Williams, if the Bears is where he goes, because yeah, we'll get into it, but that's going to be a full episode, I think, just like what to expect. What are our expectations?
I can't wait.
I know.
So excited.
I'm so excited. All right, y'all. Later, Nas. Later, everybody.
Later.